Greetings, Dr. Joseph Martin. Archangel Michael, or Michael, as you may prefer to know him by, the great spiritual guide for our time. Now, Archangel Michael, or Mikael, you'll hear me use the word Mikael, is a real spiritual being. He's well known in the history of humanity, both in the Jewish tradition and in the Christian tradition and in the Islamic tradition. In the Islamic tradition in the Holy Quran, he is mentioned once, and Archangel Gabriel, of course, is mentioned many times. And in the New Testament, in Christianity, he is mentioned many times, particularly in the Book of Revelation, where it said Archangel Michael, who, by the way, is the twin of Lucifer or Satan. And Satan, of course, was thrown down from heaven to under the earth by God the Creator because Satan, or Lucifer, same being, just two different names, was jealous that God loved humanity so much and wanted to give them a divine dispensation to find their way back to their own divinity as humans through God's special grace, particularly through many of the prophets and, of course, through Jesus. That's the history of humanity through all time, not just now in the fifth post-Atlantean race time. So, in the Book of Revelation, Archangel Michael is said to be involved in what's called the war in heaven, and eventually, through his goodness and his righteousness, defeats Satan there in heaven, in the war in heaven. And on earth, Archangel Michael is known to have fought many battles, and on behalf of humanity, in fact, individuals and groups of people and all of humanity, to fight Satan for the souls of humans. Now, we know there are many artistic representations, both in medieval times and in modern times, and sculptures for Archangel Michael, or Saint Michael, as sometimes he is called. We have them throughout all the great art galleries of the world, certainly in Europe, in Italy, and in France, Germany. And we also know that worldwide, Archangel Michael is celebrated. He's said to be one of the three great protectors of the city of Cornwall in the United Kingdom, where he appeared to fishermen and saved the people there and the city. He is celebrated there on May the 8th. He at the St. Michael's Mount there in Cornwall. September 29th is Michaelmas, or St. Michael's Day, worldwide in all the Christian, both Protestant and Catholic traditions. There are cathedrals, great cathedrals built and maintained now, still celebrating St. Michael, Archangel Michael. There's one in Toronto, there's one in China, there's one in Russia, there's one in Brussels. And beyond those, there is Basilica in Eastern Canada. And worldwide, both in the Catholic and the Protestant churches, there are tens of thousands of smaller churches with the name of St. Michael on them. This is on many of the continents and many of the nations of the world. So St. Michael obviously is a well-known historical and religious figure in many cultures and many traditions, in particular three of the great world religions that we now know. And beyond this, though, it's important to realize that every one of the archangels, and we know many of the names of them, there are four major ones, Gabriel, Michael, Uriel or Ariel, and there are others as well. We won't mention them all now. However, there are epochs or dispensations, that is, times when each one of the archangels takes a particular time segment in Earth human history to rule or reign and be the spiritual guidance or protector or leader, if you like, for the people, both all of the individuals in a specialized, personalized way, and the people at large. And such a time is this time here now. Now we know that Archangel Gabriel was in charge of the dispensation to guide and protect humanity and individuals in earlier times, both in the time when the Buddha was alive, when Jesus was alive, and when Muhammad, bless his holy name, peace be upon him, was alive. Archangel Gabriel was the one who went to each of those prophets and leaders and told them of the great news, either the visions or the new spiritual realities to be shared with the people. According to spiritual astrology, which we do recognize, in 1872, in the Common Era, Archangel Michael was the one to be in charge now, taking over from Gabriel in ruling this dispensation for the next few hundred years since 1872. And as you'll easily recognize, that covers all the great wars and cataclysms between human groups within the 20th century and still to this day. So each archangel, when he rules the dispensation of a particular Earth timeline history for a few hundred years, he has certain kinds of powerful, important messages and potent powers that he unleashes or imbues in human individuals in their consciousness and among groups and within all groups on the planet. Whether or not they recognize him is in some ways irrelevant. So what are the values that Archangel Michael brings to us now at this time? The first one is the reevaluation of many of the values that we hold as human beings. And what this means, these are moral, ethical, social, spiritual values about justice, equality, freedom, truth, reality of the oneness of all humanity. And we can sense and see in ourselves and those we know the reevaluation of values to a higher level of awareness, attitudes, and interactions between people. Another aspect for Archangel Michael is that he brings to us the notion that the flesh and the spirit are now becoming one among individuals. There's a notion that our soul, astral body, and our higher mental consciousness and spiritual etheric reality is actually becoming more embodied and unified. This is just as in a previous video that we just did today, with the flesh itself, so that the spirit, mind, body, heart, emotion, flesh becomes one. And this is a key, whether it's in the realms today in science of psychology, the science of spirituality, or the science of psycho-spirituality, physiology, or any of these complementary medicines that are ancient and modern, bring together all of this, including, of course, yoga and meditation. Besides that, Archangel Michael helps us realize as humans that the three strata of consciousness actually are one, and helps us to bring together in our own inner conscious awareness the unification and wholeness of the unconscious, the ego-conscious, and the higher spiritual superconscious. That these are all one and can and need to be healed, transmuted, transformed, and thereby unified as a whole, and not just within the consciousness, but as I've always just mentioned, within our flesh. And our flesh becomes light, full of light and love. Now, beyond that, he's bringing to the awareness of all peoples worldwide, particularly between members of the three great religions, the social equity and the need for addressing social questions that we all have. And these are not just social questions that we all have these days about what's happening on the planet, but these are political, economic, and cultural, religious values and questions as well, to see whether or not we can find a common ground, a common unity of humanity so that we can all coexist peacefully here for times to come and for all our descendants to come as well. Archangel Michael impulses us to find this unity and coexist with one another as sisters and brothers of one humanity. Now, another aspect is that Archangel Michael influences us as the counterpole, if you like, or the counterpoint to the Ahrimanic influences that are rife here on the planet at this time. We will be doing another video on Ahriman and who he is, but in a way you can say that he is another adjunct or subsidiary being like Satan or Lucifer, whose role it is to deceive humanity, to make them lose their spiritual insight, to make them lose their soul, to make them give up their feelings of tenderness and kindness and sisterhood and brotherhood, to make them fall into a more dense consciousness of strict materialism and greediness and selfishness and just desires for just the material realm with no spiritual meaning, soul, or purpose. So Archangel Michael is the counterpoint to that to help us release ourselves from the Ahrimanic influence of strict materialism, which is a very kind of a dense, death-bringing consciousness that brings a lot of despair and depression and loneliness to people on the planet. And so, along with this, then, one of the gifts that gratefully we receive from Archangel Michael is the aspect of bringing the ancient yoga and the ancient culture and knowledge of yoga to a new yoga will, a new will to bring yoga to a higher place of awareness in our consciousness as individuals, and a new higher yoga as a consciousness within our entire society and culture. And that is one of the reasons why, along with Archangel Michael and the spiritual masters, we are serving here and supporting others to become aware of the I Am Yoga, which is an ancient modern technique and methodology to bring together all the aspects of our divine human nature in a new, strong-willed, determined way that will release us from the bonds of strict materialism and bring us once again to a higher spiritual, psychological emancipation of truth, freedom, love, courage, strength, and inner devotion. There are many more things we can say about Archangel Michael, and we're very happy and grateful that we are feeling so blessed, all of us on the planet, to have his support, protection, guidance, direction, and certainly most of all, his great light with his flaming sword of truth and the blue light that he brings, and also the love and the kindness and the tenderness that he brings as well. These are thoughts and experiences for your own personal consideration. It would be great for you to go into your own heart of hearts and find your own inner truth with Archangel Michael at this time and throughout all times to come. Om Namah Shivaya, all love and blessings to you, Dr. Joseph Martin here.